Welcome to The Woolly Way, a podcast specifically for dairy shepherds. That is, folks wanting to raise sheep for the purpose of harvesting milk. We cover all the things pertaining to raising dairy sheep here, be it animal nutrition, housing, healthcare, lambing tips, cheese making, and even some butchery and fiber arts. After all, if you raise dairy sheep, you are going to have wool, and if your operation is successful, you'll eventually have surplus lambs to decide what to do with. Ethical animal husbandry is the focus here, as well as sustainable agriculture. We want to provide you with the information you need to start and continue your dairy sheep operation in the best way possible for you, your sheep, and this amazing world we live in. So grab a nice cup of sheep milk and let's dive in. Welcome back to The Woolly Way. Today we have Marissa Gutierrez from Euphoria Sheep Farm. She is actually the hostess of is it the Euphoria Sheep podcast, or what is the name of your podcast?
I changed all my stuff to Desert Shepherdess. So I used Euphoria Sheep, but now I'm just Desert Shepherdess.
Okay, I should have asked that right before I hit record, and then I have lambing brain, so
I changed on so I kind of did a little flip, so that's my own deal.
Okay, so you're just the Desert Shepherdess across all platforms at this point, is that right? Okay, awesome.
Yes.
And Marissa and I have known each other online for a couple of years. If you have read my book, The Guide to Homestead Dairy Sheep, the stanchion plans are actually designed by her husband, which we have been very grateful for. So Marissa, tell us a little bit about your farm, your homestead, for those who may not be familiar with you.
All right. Well, I've been raised here in New Mexico. I've only lived here in New Mexico, so I am very familiar with the desert, which is why I am the Desert Shepherdess. I have a lot of family here, and on both sides, they have all been more homesteaders, so just providing for themselves as far as meat, garden, that type of stuff. So my mom's real dad died when she was 3, and so there's that whole other side of family that I don't know very well. And just a couple months ago, I learned that her real grandpa, my real grandpa, was a shepherd, and he had hundreds of sheep here in New Mexico. And I thought that was super cool because I did not know that. And I've always had animals and stuff, but I'm kind of the one in this generation to go full force with the sheep. On my husband's side of the family, his great grandpa, and dad were shepherds. His dad kind of took farming a different direction, but before that, they were full-blown shepherds living out with their sheep. They would walk them many miles from Horse Springs to Magdalena to take their sheep onto the train to sell.
Oh, wow.
So there's definitely shepherd history between me and my husband. But as far as farming and everything, it's on both sides of the family that we've been doing this for ever, one way or another. I'm more animals, hands-on, like a shovel. My husband is like tractors and equipment. I didn't grow up with equipment. I grew up with just with your hand, with your muscles.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
So yeah, that's kind of where we went. Actually, one thing that I love about the story with me and my husband is our wedding gift were sheep. That was our very first animals on our farm that were ours, were Barbados sheep. So it's a hair sheep. And my dad bought some, and my father-in-law bought some, and that was our first gift. And so they wanted us to have meat, and we have never been without meat since the day we got married.
I absolutely love that. I think that is the perfect wedding gift, is some sheep. I think that should be a thing. We should make that part of our culture now. Yeah, that's just perfect. So now our Barbados blackbelly, are they as wild as I've heard? Because they seem to be some sheep think they're goats, and it seems like Barbados blackbelly think that they're actually deer or some kind of mythical creature. So
yeah, 100%. That is why we mostly ate them, because like I was not very hands-on with them as far as like I wasn't petting them, and we were feeding them, treating them well. We didn't have to shear them, so they really were pretty hands-off, and we just used them for meat for many years. But I would step into the corral, had to catch one, and they would just run around me as if I was like a tiger. Like they would just like run and jump and like wild, and I would really just be standing there. And we had a couple that like as lambs, maybe I touched a little bit. I've had a couple of I I never kept a bottle lamb from a Barbados for longer than like 2 weeks, where I was able to bring them back to their mom. But those couple that I did have to give them a better start at first, at least, those ones were friendlier, where they would not freak out when I would walk in there. But they're definitely wild. I've heard of people having friendlier ones, but it takes effort, and I think that it's like hereditary. If you have like a wild ewe, you're gonna get a wild lamb. You kind of have to already have like a calm flock for them to continue to be calm, in my opinion.
Okay, gotcha. Well, it's interesting because with our Gulf Coast natives, my friendliest ewe lambs are from my 2 wildest adult ewes.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but like I was petting this ewe lamb the other day, and I thought it was one of my bottle babies from last year. And then I looked at her and I was like, wait a minute. You're Bianca. You're from Crazy One over there. And she's just looking at me like, yeah, I'm here. I like you. So it's interesting because Gulf Coasts are very feral as well, like Barbados blackbellies, but they're not as insanely feral as what I've heard Barbados blackbellies have been. So, so now are you still predominantly raising Barbados blackbelly, or
no?
What is your?
I think our last blackbelly, we butchered him 2 years ago. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. So we just slowly weeded them out and just basically just had them for meat. I didn't really sell any. They're good meat, and I like their meat because it just has good flavor. It's not super fatty. So it's a lean meat. I'm not opposed to fatty lamb either, but I like the taste. It's really easy. But anyway, so my history here with my sheep, I started with those. I got a couple of baby doll just because they were cute, and somebody was giving them away.
It's baby dolls. I'm like, and it was like, you should get baby dolls. I'm like, no, they are the chihuahuas of the sheep world. Like,
yeah.
No, don't get baby dolls unless you have some kind of agritourism. So I digress. Please continue.
No, it's true. They were just cute, and they were like just becoming popular during that time. And and this person texted me and was like, these sheep look like aliens. Nobody wants them. Do you want them? And I said, oh, they're baby dolls, but they have a weird shaped head. They're kind of like a triangle. And so the people who had them were like, I don't know what this is, but I don't want it. So I actually was given these 3 baby doll wethers, and so I used them for wool, and they were just super friendly, and they honestly didn't have a purpose. We ended up eating all 3 of them eventually. We eat everything. Unfortunately, I'm sorry if that offends some people, but we will eat anyone, basically.
Look, this is a homesteading podcast. If you're vegan, this is probably, actually, it's not probably, this just is not the show for you. We eat products from our animals, and we eat our animals. So, I mean, I am at the point in life where I'm just very unapologetic. Like, I eat meat. I am a Christian. I vote conservative. If you don't like that, either keep it to yourself or move on. That's just where I am in life. So eat your animals and eat them with pride. Now,
yes, I mean, we took such good care of them. Like, I loved those, but they got to a point where I'm like, okay, I don't really know what your role is here anymore. And you're getting older, so the older they get, the tougher they get, and so we just decided to eat those ones. Now, I got into Dorpers after that because I really liked the hair sheep. I liked the I liked the easiness of it because I did not understand wool completely. I did not know everything that wool can do. I did use some of the baby dolls wool in the garden, but I was like trying to spin it and stuff, and that's just a whole other world that I've tapped into, but it's just not my priority at the moment in my life. But I went back to hair sheep because I'm like, okay, it's just easy. And I love my Dorpers. If I ever went back to a hair sheep, I would get Dorpers. Just because they're just easy. They have good meat. All of mine were really good mamas, and some of them had good udders and teats, and those were what I started milking. So I started milking my Dorpers, and that was just like, let me just see what happens. I mean, I tend to do that. I milked my donkey like that. My donkey had a baby, and I was like, let me just milk you. Like, I don't know, let me just see what you taste like.
Oh gosh, I'm intrigued by the donkey milk, so at some point I'm sure we'll ask more questions about that. But
Yes. Yeah. I didn't do it. Go ahead.
Do it.
Oh, I said I didn't do it for too long. I just really wanted to try it, but I had wild jennies at the time. My donkeys were not the friendliest, and so we just did it for a little while, and it tasted amazing. Actually, very similar to sheep milk. We wouldn't really taste the difference. I mean, I would have to try them side by side, but from me remembering, very similar to sheep milk. Very sweet, very creamy, and just, I loved it. I just wasn't set up to milk my donkey like that.
Yeah, I'd heard donkey milk is a little thinner than sheep milk, so maybe not as creamy, or I have to look at the fat content and compare the nutrients. But I have also heard that donkey milk is one of the most expensive on the market to purchase, like even more than camel milk. But it is, if you have like incurable diseases, it is something that's recommended to help alleviate symptoms. Not cure, because we can't claim that, but
Yes.
I've heard really good things about donkey milk. So Kyle has strictly forbidden me from bringing home a donkey without a very long conversation and different dispensing, but maybe someday we'll look into some donkeys. So, okay, so you had these Dorpers, they had babies, they had udders, and so you walked out one day and you're like, what the heck? Let me just grab a hold of them and see if milk comes. Is that how it went? So
it is basically how it went. We caught a couple ewes, and I was like, there's a table right here, and these ewes never had a halter on them, and I was like, plopping these fat things up on a table, and I was like, let's do it. It was an actual table. It's not a stand. It wasn't my husband's holding the halter, and like, really, it was just like, I just want to milk you. And I milked all of them to see what they were like. And I loved it, actually. And I was like, okay, so that started to make my gears turn, and I'm like, okay, I've heard of sheep cheese, and so I'm like, there's people who are doing this all the time, and there's obviously breeds that do this. So then I went on a whole research thing of like, okay, I'm done with Dorpers, now I want a dairy sheep. And so I really just experimented with so many sheep just to see what I liked and what I didn't. I have kept it in my head, though, that I live in the desert, and so with that, I wanted a drought tolerant breed. I wanted something that they didn't need lush fields year round. They didn't need tons of stuff, which I did end up getting East Frisians. But beside that, my research went into Awasis. I found this breed, and something just, I was like, this is my breed, at least for this season of my life. I mean, they're tri-purpose. I started to look more into their wool. It's not luscious wool. It's more of a carpet wool. You can use it in the garden. You can use so many other things. It's just a little itchy on the skin if you put it directly on your skin. But I love that they were tri-purpose. They were friendly, and they're an old breed. And they say that maybe in the Bible, maybe Jesus ate the fat tail from the Oasi, because and actually I think it's Leviticus. It talks about the fat tail of the sheep. It was actually a part of the what you had to do. It was a part of the law. Like you had to get the fat of the sheep. And so that just intrigued my whole thing of like, oh, this is cool. Like this is what they saw, these fat tail sheep walking across these hills. Like I just fell in love. And so about 5 years ago, my Awasi journey started and still going. It's still a process. It's been so much, but since then I've incorporated East Frisians. I have some Tunis in my flock. I have what other breeds do I have? I still have a couple of Dorper and a couple of Southdowns. But this year they're gonna be gone. I'm like cleaning out my flock this year. I'm just trying to get more babies.
Hey guys, I just wanted to interrupt this real quick to give a shout out to our sponsor, the North American Dairy Sheep Association. NADSA is open to any sheep breed or cross used for milking. NADSA supports dairy shepherds and is elevating dairy standards in sheep in America. You can become a member by going to www.northamericadairysheep.org, or you can email the association at northamericadairsheep@gmail.com. I am so thankful to NADSA for sponsoring this podcast and helping me bring more resources to the dairy sheep community. Stay tuned for future podcast episodes where I talk to NADSA board members and the president about what NADSA is trying to accomplish in America for the dairy sheep community.
No, yeah. So you tried several different breeds, and so you did get the East Frisians, but you think you're gonna mainly focus on Awasi from here out. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes. So I got East Frisians. These two came. They came from Arizona, but they were from Washington, and so I thought, okay, they lived in Arizona a bit, so maybe they're acclimated to the desert. They're giving over a gallon a day. Yeah.
The East Frisians.
The East Frisians. So they were giving over a gallon a day at peak is what the lady told me, and I was like, okay, like I could live off of both of these ewes and like they'll be fine. And so when I got them, they're super easy to milk. Like, I mean, their teats are just a dream. And one of them, the udder is not the best. It's saggy. It's not the best attached udder. But her teats are just like, I mean, oh, it's a dream. Only dairy shepherds can like, know what I'm saying right now. They're just like,
yeah, when you hand milk and you started with the meat breed and you're used to those little jelly beans, and then you get a dairy cross or dairy genetics, and it's those nice big, the size of your thumb teats you can grab on with your whole hand. You're just like, okay, this is why our ancestors made dairy specific breeds right here. It was for hand milking. So if you use a milking machine, it's not quite as much of a euphoric moment, but if you hand milk, man, those dairy teats are the things we dairy shepherds geek out about. So
exactly. Yeah. So when I got them, I was like, oh, this is amazing. But then I realized what the East Frisians require. And I was like, oh, I'm not used to this because I've had the black belly Barbados, I've had the Dorper for a while, and even the Southdowns were not like, they're pretty easy keepers. And so this breed, I'm not downing them. They're a great breed when you understand them. They're a great breed when they have what they, but goodness, it took me a while to understand how much more they needed because they're producing so much milk. They need so much more to give back to them. And then they're having twins, and that's a lot on any ewe. And then if they have more, the Cara, the one I have, that's my biggest producer, she had triplets the year before me. And I know a lot of people like multiple births, and some people are like, oh, I want fin sheep. I want 6 lambs. I'm like, no. I mean, this is me personally.
I don't want I'm like, who want all these litters of lambs? I'm like, yeah, 2. Let's stick with 2. Twins that's enough. We don't need to go into quads or quintuplets or any of that nonsense.
No, and that's it's just because, well, first of all, no, I'm the same way. And I don't like bottle babies. We both have bottle babies at this moment, but it's not something that I'm like, yay, I have a bottle baby. It's like, oh shoot, they're really cute. But now this is a lot more work that I have on my plate now. So I prefer to not have bottle babies. I really try
Mhm.
hard to not have bottle babies, and then I'm really careful with that. Next time I breed her, I really want to try to avoid that. If you're not a good mom, I'm probably going to eat you. That's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. I give my girls one pass. Like, if you're a crappy mom, I give you one pass. Because, like, this year with my first bottle baby, where she rejected her, we went out and the lamb had gotten caught between the barn and then an old dresser we had out there for storage. And so by the time we found the lamb, like, she had gotten cold, she had gotten barn dust all over her, and the ewe had just decided, I'm cutting my losses, I'm focusing on the lamb that I have, that's strong, that I know, and just has flatly refused to take this ewe lamb back. And of course, ironically, this is the only ewe lamb we have so far. Everyone else are boys. So, in this case, it was, well, we weren't checking the sheep as often as we should have. Like, we let them have access to the barn that they probably shouldn't have been in. So it's like, okay, I'm going to give you a pass this time, but if you make this a habit, then you are most likely going to go to freezer camp because I just don't have time for this.
Yeah, we're the same way. I give everybody one pass. Like, we had a ewe last year. She had a healthy baby 2 years ago, and then last year twins died, and I don't know what happened. So this year I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do? If something wrong happens, then I will not breed her again. With this bottle baby that I have now, her mom was a first-time mom and had twins, which you want a first-time mom to have a single. That's like, that's what you want, because they're just better moms, and they're trying to grasp what the heck to do. And so when she had twins, she just rejected the ewe. Of course, it's a ewe. It's always a ewe, and you're like, oh,
it's always the ewe. And for those who are new to shepherding, you don't want that. You want them to reject the ram lamb, not the ewe, because it doesn't matter what you do. Even if you are feeding that bottle baby her own mother's milk, you're not feeding them on demand like the ewe's going to, and you're not a sheep. So that bottle baby is just going to be weaker than it would have been if its mother was raising it. Now, the caveat with, if you have a ram bottle baby, is you have got to snippety doodah that boy, because if he grows up intact and he will identify as a human, and then when rut season comes and all those hormones go, you're now in competition in his brain for breeding rights. And so he will start to fight you because he thinks you are in his way to become top ram of the breeding flock. So, I mean, the moral of the story is, you just don't want bottle babies, period. But if you must bottle baby, you want it to be a boy. Whether he's either a fiber animal or he goes to freezer camp, you want your ewes to be raised by other ewes. So there's my little animal husbandry soapbox for today. But anyway,
100%. That is exactly to the T. Like, I was so bummed because I have 4 rams that were born recently and only 2 ewes, and of course one of them has to be a bottle baby, and I'm like, oh
yeah.
And I'm trying really hard. I couldn't get her to get her back, but the mom is a first-time mom. She's just not going to right now. If she was a seasoned mom, I would try harder, but it's just too much for her. And then I just got them in October, so I think there was stress too while we brought them back, and just a change of thing that they went through. They were there was just a lot. So I'm giving her this pass, but I'm definitely gonna see what happens. The reason why I am keeping my East Frisians, to go back to that, is a lot of my Awasi ewes that I got, which, real quick, just to clear the air, there are some people who do not want me to say I have pure Awasi, because I do not have a paper that says that there's pure Awasi ewes. So I will say my high percentage Awasi ewes. I don't have the paper, but if you date back, they're Awasi. But, and maybe there's something else in there. Oh, it is. I'm really seeing a whole other side of the sheep people. I'm definitely seeing the different sides of breeding.
The breed wars right now about, are they high percentage or full blood or purebred or whatever. I mean, it's just, it's a very interesting time right now when it comes to dairy sheep genetics in America.
It really is. And I have been with sheep for over 10 years, and I've always felt like I've understood this world. And then I started looking into Awasis, and holy cow, it's like a whole other world. The Awasi world right now.
You are in the Wild West. The Awasi world is the Wild West. I mean, it's just very interesting. Like, I don't know if other breeds have the same dynamics as the Wasis do right now, but
Yeah, I mean, and I'm learning people, and I'm learning there are some people who I think I can trust. I definitely went in thinking I could trust everybody because I like people, and I'm an optimistic. I'm like, no one will like do me wrong, you know? So there are definitely some people in this world that I trust, but I learned really fast that you have to be careful. There's people who want all your information, and then they're not sharing. It's weird. It is so weird, and I don't like it. But nonetheless, I try to okay, I just want good sheep. And this is my goal, is to have good sheep, tri-purpose, go back to what they used to be. Because unfortunately, when they brought them here, nobody was milking the Awasi. They just wanted the fat tail. That was the priority of this breed in America, was the fat tail. And so, yeah. And so so this breed has only come into the US in 2012 is when everything opened, like, okay, we could get it from Australia. And that was just semen at that point. So then that means you have to breed up the Awasi. So if you can only transfer the semen, then you only have 50%. Then you have, whatever. And even when you have 6 years, you're still like 90-something percent Awasi. And it takes a while. And then there's embryo transfers. So that was when, it kind of kickstarted things. Yeah. It opened a lot more opportunities to open.
Sorry, there's a lag here. The embryo transfer opened up after the semen transfer. So then that's thrown a whole new wrench in the system too, from what I understand, because if you have a successful embryo transfer, that offspring is considered a full-blooded Awasi. But if it's just a semen transfer, then that's a 50% or whatever, wherever you're at in the breeding up program. So, and then, there's controversy over which flock or herd did you source your embryos or semen from, then it just gets interesting. So, but I didn't know they were bringing them for the fat tail, not the milk.
Yeah, so that was how it started, was fat tail, because it was just, us Americans didn't realize what the fat tail is. People have been eating the fat of the sheep forever, and they like saute it. I mean, they grill it, and it just the fat, just clumps of fat, and it's healthy. It's a superfood, and people, it's like a way of culture all around the world, especially in the Middle East and places like that, in the desert, because it gives you something nutritious to eat, even in the middle of a lot of food. You can get a superfood from the fat of your sheep. But anyways, the fat tail, it became okay, that's what we're breeding for, is fat tail. And so now there's not very big dairy genetics with the Awasi. You can definitely get a couple that are okay, they're decent to milk, but you're not going to find what you're going to find if you went to Jerusalem or Israel or Iraq right now and got a Awasi. We're not going to have the same udder. It's not going to look the same, because that's not the intentions. The people who started to bring sheep here wanted more of the fat tail. There's a couple of milk sheep, but it wasn't everybody. And so going back to what you were saying with the different genetics, I got a interesting thing that happened this last year. So I got a embryo transferred ram lamb. He's registered, he's pure, because both his parents were embryo transfers from Australia. And so he's pure Awasi. And in the Awasi breed, they have these beautiful horns that it's like the way the rams look. That is what an Awasi ram looks like. Well, I got blessed with a polled ram, which is not.
How did that happen?
So I'm one of the only one. There's only been 2 polled rams since 2012 in America that have been pure Awasi and polled. And mine comes from that lineage, obviously.
Yeah.
Because so my ram, his shire has horns, but his dam's dad shire was polled. And so nobody said this to me. And I just figured, well, his dad has horns. I looked at his mom's udder. I looked at all this and I made this purchase, and they're not cheap sheep. And so I was excited, and then like no horns ever came, and I was like, he's already like 9 months old. Like this sheep should have horns by now. And yeah, turns out he is polled. And
want to know more about dairy sheep? Did you know that I write books on the topic? There is my big book, which is published by Sawdust Publishing and is available on my website or Amazon and sawdustpublishing.com. In this volume, The Guide to Homestead Dairy Sheep, you will find everything I wished I knew when I first started raising dairy sheep. I feature other dairy shepherds and go into detail on topics like different breeds for milking, parasite management, milk sharing with lambs, how to set your flock up for the best lambing and therefore milking season possible, and I briefly discuss digestion and nutrition of sheep. Since writing this book, folks have asked me questions about more nuanced topics, so I have begun writing ebooks that are topic-specific that you can purchase on my website and receive as an instant download and print at your convenience. Currently, we have Bringing Your New Sheep Home, which explains in detail our step-by-step method of introducing new dairy sheep onto your homestead and getting them used to you as their shepherd. Since there are currently no dairy-specific hair breed sheep available, dairy shepherds will have to shear their sheep annually and then decide what to do with their wool. Wool has a lot of misconceptions surrounding it, and I want to help shepherds understand that it is a commodity and not a burden. So I wrote my other ebook, 5 Uses of Wool on the Homestead, which is designed to give you practical ideas on how to utilize this amazing product around your homestead the second you shear it off your sheep. The ebooks are only available on my website at whoopsiedaisyfarm.com.
And this is something I wanted to this could be a good thing for me as far as dairy sheep. It's not a good thing in the OC world. So I can possibly find people who want polled Awasis that milk, because when you're milking a sheep and they have horns, you're dealing with them more. If you get hit, even with some of my females have little horns, and they're like the ones that are just like on their skin. It's not really like real horns. They're like, yeah. But it still hurts if they knock you a little. So it hurts more. And so I think I can make it work. I'm gonna keep him. I had thought first, I was like, forget it, I'm gonna sell him. Like, I was so frustrated and irritated that it's no one's fault. It's not the person I bought it from. Nobody. It just happened. But people were like, oh, well, you have a polled ram, like kind of like, that sucks for you, like it's not a true Awasi. So I'm learning though that not everybody cares about pure Awasi. I do. I'm trying to get to that point eventually. But I can still sell lambs that are polled Awasi. I can start that flock, and who knows, maybe his babies will have horns. I still don't know. I have yet to breed him because he's young. But I am going to get another registered ram to help in the Awasi flock. But my polled ram, I'm going to try to create this polled Awasi flock that is probably really good for the dairy part of all of this.
Yeah.
People who don't care about looking like an Awasi ram necessarily with the horns.
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a very interesting phenomenon that I've been ping-ponging with since starting this podcast and talking to other dairy shepherds is, when do you want a purebred and you want to put your effort into the purebred? And when do you just need a sheep that produces good dairy and has other traits and dynamics that just makes it a good homestead dairy sheep? And, I don't think there's necessarily a right answer. There's people who definitely think there's a correct answer, but I don't think there is a one size fits all answer. I mean, for someone who's just getting started with sheep, who knows they need sheep milk, they want to start a flock, they just need some experience. In that case, I'm like, just get the cheaper sheep, get a crossbreed, get some experience under your belt. And then if you decide you need higher production or you like this breed over that breed, then you can reinvest and get, because here's the thing, the sheep don't live forever. Like, they have a timestamp on them. Like, eventually their production's going to go down and you got to do something with them, because having a sheep nursing home is just not good animal husbandry. So, but if you're someone who's been in this for a while and you're like, I really need that higher production and I like that sheep over that sheep, and I think, and you have more money to put in your flock, because that's the other big thing. Like you said, none of the dairy sheep that are high percentage are going to have a price tag that's comparable to your mutts or other breeds of sheep. I mean, what I paid for my Gulf Coast natives that are purebred registered looks like peanuts compared to what you're going to pay for a dairy sheep. So that's one thing to consider too. I mean, when you're looking at these dairy sheep genetics, these farmers are paying for importing embryos and semen, which costs a lot of money. So they're going to charge accordingly because they want a return on their investment, versus, if you're going, my price tag is set and all I can pay is this, you really need to explore the crossbreeds or the different genetics world. So I think there's definitely a place in this world for both. It's just you need to know what your budget and goals are.
Yeah, I agree completely. Like I told you at the beginning, I milk anything. I literally am like, come here, I want to milk you. So like, I don't care. But going into this breed too, I'm realizing that even since they've been here since 2012, there still is not a pure Awasi that is like it. You cannot go without bringing other breeds in to get that you want. So even though people are trying to get to this pure right now, I'm bringing in East Frisian because I want better dairy genetics, and so I'm bringing in this sheep here, and that's what happens. That's even what happened to the actual East Frisian. That's why there's not 100% East Frisians here, because they had to bring these other breeds in. And it's really all what you want to do. I mean, I'm in an exotic livestock page on Facebook, and these people have like giraffes and all these things, which is cool. You can get, if you're going the more exotic route just because you want something more exotic, there's a business for that. But as far as homesteading, really making things work for you and your farm and what you want. I am kind of stuck on the Awasi. I understand both sides of it. I'm stuck on the Awasi because I don't know, it just resonates with me, and the whole desert and the tri-purpose and the Bible and like all these things. I'm just like, oh, I love this breed. But at the same time, I'm not opposed to bringing other breeds in to get what I want and to breed them with something that's going to fulfill my needs. Maybe somebody else who wants Awasi just wants the fat tail because they're going to use it as meat and they want that. They don't care about the dairy. So really, regardless what sheep you get, you do have to kind of bring in some other I mean, that's a part of homesteading, is like what does your family need? Do you want more milk, or are you okay with just 2 cups a day, or do you want a gallon? It really is what you want. And and I love mutts. I mean, I'm even like that with dogs. I've bought purebred dogs, and I'm like, I would never ever again get a purebred dog. I'm like, I love my mutts. I love my mutts. Unless you're bred for something specific like a livestock guardian dog, I want a dog that was raised, whatever. But you kind of get what I'm saying. Like you there's times where you need more characteristics from a purebred or like that breed that has been bred to do that for many years. But it's okay to have different other things come in. And like you said, the cost for mutts are a lot better and they're probably healthier a lot of times than like my
Because
East
the more
Frisian.
purebred you get, the more limited your gene pool gets. And the more limited your gene pool gets, the more you have room for genetic issues. And that, it's a pick which struggle you want. I mean, if you have more genetic diversity, then they're not as predictable. So like when we lamb, we don't know what we're getting. We could have polled, we could have horns, we could have, one kind of fleece or another kind of fleece. They could be colored. Right now all of our lambs are white. Don't know how that happened because they're coming out of ewes from different colors. I mean, we have no idea because it's a mixed breed flock. If you go more of like a higher percentage or pure East Frisian or Awasi, like pretty much what you're getting. You know what they're going to look like. You have a fair idea of what you're going to be dealing with. And again, but with that, I mean, if you have a high percentage East Frisian, you just need to be aware that they're going to have more susceptibility in these areas. So you just kind of need to educate yourself and decide where you want to put your effort, because you're going to have to put effort into it one way or the other. It's just what kind of effort do you want to put in?
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm at now with my East Frisians. I want their udders to be into my flock, but they are so not parasite resistant, not like the other sheep I've had. They drink so much, they eat so much, they require so much more minerals and vitamins. And so I don't want that I don't want my whole sheep to be that way, but I'm also using their udder. You have to really be aware of what you're getting and what you have, because you can make your flock weaker, you can make your flock stronger, you can go so many ways, but you just have to know your sheep. And that's I'm careful with how I'm breeding my East Frisian. I'm nervous because they're gonna lamb and they're bagging up so big that I'm like, it looks like a cow udder, and that just looks unnatural to me. From a sheep,
pretty big udders.
Yeah, Kara. Her udder is just giant, but I see her. She doesn't have the best conformation, so I'm also trying to take the responsibility of, okay, am I gonna continue to just use her, and even though she's comfortable and she doesn't have the best udder, is it smart of me to continue to use her? Or I don't know. It's just there's so much to think about when you're breeding sheep, and it's a big responsibility because I'm probably cutting her life down a little bit by her being such a big producer and making her give me all this milk and these babies. It's a lot. At least for me, this is me looking at it from just a person, I'm just looking at these sheep and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's uncomfortable and she's walking around and her udder is just huge, and maybe it's pulling a little bit because it doesn't sit way up high like my other one, Lily. Her udder sits right up and it looks strong and healthy. Kara's is droopy, and so that's even, I don't know. There's so much to think about when it comes to breeding and all of this. I don't want to be selfish and just breed her to breed her. I'm trying to really be wise and also get some use out of her with the Awasi will make them more tolerant with parasites and all of that. Because
didn't the Israelis do that with the Asaph breed? Because I think the Israelis actually built a breed based off that reasoning of they had the Awasis and they're like, well, we want more, but we also don't want the responsibility of the fragility of the East Frisians. So they actually crossed East Frisians and Awasis to get the Asaph to kind of go with what you're saying. So, which, I mean, it's also very interesting because, breeders or people who are passionately in love with the East Frisian breed get really upset when you say the East Frisians are more delicate than other breeds of sheep. And it's like, look, dude, I'm sorry. They just are. They're putting all of their dietary effort and, genetically they're putting everything into milk production, and that's fine, but it's just kind of understood, like with humans, if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, no one's offended when you tell them, mom, hey, you're a little bit more delicate. Let's help and take care of you. And if you are offended, then you probably need to go get some counseling, because it's okay to accept help. Same thing with these Frisians.
Yeah.
Like, they just need a little bit more TLC. That doesn't mean they're a bad sheep or a bad breed. It's just know what you're getting into. I mean, you're not going to have the same issues if you have a different breed of sheep as you're going to have with these Frisians. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't have an East Frisian. Just, I think you experienced this, Marissa, last year. Like, you thought you could just treat these East Frisians the same way as your other breeds of sheep, and then woke up and was like, oh, this is just not the case. They need cared for differently.
Oh yeah. I mean, she that morning, and her udder was just hard and red, and she got mastitis within
hours. It was hours, right?
Yeah. And I was like, what? Like, I've never milked my sheep out the night that they lambed. Usually you let the lambs just, and that was dumb for me to not research, but like, I really didn't think much of any
years. I mean, I would have thought the same thing of like, no, you let the lamb have all that colostrum. Let him be. Don't take the colostrum. That's cruel. And then you were like, oh, that was not the right life choice, because she's such a high producer and she got mastitis really. Yeah. And I think the calcium needs were higher too, right?
Oh yeah. She needed tons of calcium. Even now I'm like giving her calcium. I'm giving her oral calcium as well as cracked eggs in her feet, like the shells. And I'm just like, where can I get this calcium? I'm like really like trying to be preventative health here with her, because it was scary last time. And I paid a pretty penny for her, and I was like, no, don't die yet. Don't die yet. I have to live a couple more years, Cara. Yeah. But, I have a mineral buffet, and so I have that, and I'm also like drenching her every other day with I'm not like loading a ton. It sounds like I'm doing a ton of stuff, and I am, but I'm just giving her a little each day or every other day, and I'm just like, how are you doing? Like, she's looking a little stiff, and I'm like, okay, she needs something because her body is not working right. There was she couldn't even stand up, and I was like, okay, something's wrong. And this was she couldn't stand up. She was just laying down. She was already gonna die. I almost lost her. She was so close to just giving up. And I had to bottle feed babies for a little while too. When I milked her out that next morning, which it wasn't even a full 24, it was just the next morning. She had them in the nighttime. I milked her in the morning. She gave me a gallon of colostrum.
Oh my word. Wow.
And that's when I was like, okay, she has way too much milk in her udder. Like, she can't sit there. It cannot sit there. It needs to be moved. And so I messaged the lady who I bought her from. She's like, oh yeah, once they lamb, you're going to milk twice a day. Whether you're separating lambs or not, you're milking twice a day as soon as they're. And I wish I would have known that before. I guess that was dumb on my part to not know exactly what I was getting into, getting such high producing ewes.
Thanks so much for listening to the Woolly Way podcast. We hope you enjoyed our episode and have gleaned at least one tip you can implement in your flock right away. If you liked what you heard, please hit the subscribe button. And if you wouldn't mind, leave us a review. This helps others find our podcast so they can enjoy learning more about dairy sheep along with you. The Woolly Way podcast is a production of Whoopsie Daisy Farm. For updates and information about our show, follow us on Facebook or Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube and email list, and look us up at whoopsiedaisyfarm.com. Have a particular guest you'd like us to host or a topic you'd like us to cover? Fill out our contact form on our website or shoot us an email at whoopsiedaisyfarm@gmail.com. See you next time!